Welcome, merry listeners, to the Breaking Script podcast with Lala and Nini.
This is where we unwrap the enchanting world of Hallmark movies and the occasional Asian dramas.
As we dive into these cinematic journeys, we're not just recapping, we're embarking on a therapeutic adventure.
Think of it as our cinematic self-care session.
And no, we're not just casual spectators. We're here to dissect the undercurrent messages, unravel the complexities, and even spot those not-so-magical moments of unhealthy behaviors.
And through it all, we'll be infusing our own unique perspectives and life experiences along the way.
Get ready to snuggle up as we explore the cheer, the charm, and the occasional cheesy wonder of these festive films. Welcome back to the Breaking Script podcast with Lala and Nini. I'm Lala.
And I'm Nini. And how about them Chiefs?
I actually did not even watch the game because I was honestly still in shock from The Way Home Season 2, Episode 1. I literally could not function after that. But I'm so glad that you were there. And apparently T Swift was at the game in Buffalo. Like, that's so close to where I live.
That is hilarious.
I'm so close to her right now.
I'm so close to her. Girl, where you been? She been at every game.
I know.
Almost.
I love all like the memes or the videos of these wives joking, just saying jokes to their husband about how Travis Kelce is only famous because he's dating Taylor Swift, and all these husbands are like outraged because he was famous
Travis
before.
Kelce.
Yeah, exactly.
They just beat Tom Brady and Gronk's records.
My gosh. I have to be honest with you.
Deal. Mahomes
I have
and Kelce.
no idea what that means, but I'm excited.
I'm not a sports person. Why do I know these things? Only because Nini is a bandwagon fan.
I think I've said this. I'm a Super Bowl fan. I'm a fan at the Super Bowl party, and that's the extent of my fandom.
Oh my goodness, I have surpassed your football sports fandom. Wait, I'm confused though. Is it because of the time difference? Like, weren't you guys watching it at the same time? By the way, if you were a fly on the wall of our houses, we were texting while we were watching. And my brother even watched The Way Home with Lala, so.
Yeah, he had the game on the iPad, like over, we didn't have a 2 television setup, but.
Yeah, that's what we had going on.
But you know what's funny? I had this realization last night as I was texting you, and I kind of get the idea of being immersed in sports in a specifically like heavy moment in time.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the appeal of like how it would just help you not think about stuff. I don't know what I'm saying, but I kind of thought about it. I'm like, I get sports from a psychological point of view. Like, I might not enjoy watching it, but I feel like I might enjoy how immersed I might get into it, you know? Be like a puzzle for my eyes.
We don't love sports for sports. We love the psychological effects that it gives us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's where we are at the Breaking Script podcast. Just so you guys know, in Nini's household, I had 4 children watching with me, and we had the Chiefs game on one screen. And I think my brother texted and was like, wait, you're watching the game? Who's watching the game? And I was like, all of us. We had the Chiefs game on the big screen, and The Way Home, I mean, still a decent sized screen. It was a smaller screen. But I had the Hallmark channel on already, waiting like an hour in advance, because
I love it.
You guys, that game, the Chiefs and the Bills, we were on the edge of our seats. We could not calm down. And I was like, you know what? This might work out. Like, the commercials might line up where like you could watch the game while there's commercials on Hallmark, and when The Way Home's on, there could be commercials on. No. Bummer. We'll get into that. So if you are in a place where you are rewiring your brain and your nervous system and you need calm, maybe not watch season 2, episode 1 of The Way Home.
Oh yeah, I was screaming at the TV.
We are going to get into all of it. Literally, no joke. 2 of my kids and I were sitting, actually 3 of them. We couldn't move afterwards. We literally sat and
Sat
just
there?
let Golden Girls roll because, and then just I couldn't sleep because there just were theories going through my head.
Oh, I'm so glad you say that because anyways, we'll get to that. But I was the same.
The way
I
we see
was
it.
stuck on the couch, kind of like, oh my gosh, did all of this really happen? It's so good.
Yeah, so wait, maybe trigger warning. I know you guys are like, come on, get to it already. Because just for reals though, it's not as huge trigger warning as season 1, episode 9, but let me
No.
tell you, it's still pretty big. Maybe wait a minute if you need calm. Like, watch True Justice, which was brand new, written by Nikki DeLoach and her like bestie. She calls it a work wife. I want a work wife to write with. That sounds amazing. Loved True Justice. It was a new Hallmark Movies and Mysteries movie for January. I believe they're releasing one new Hallmark Movies and Mysteries movie every month. And there is a new Hallmark Channel movie every Saturday for January. It's called New Year, New Movies.
Ooh.
You like that play on New Year, New You? Yeah, I come
Yeah.
up with these things. And then February, I can't wait. I hope they don't ruin it for me. Did you watch Jane Austen movies growing up?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So I'm really curious. Like all of February on the Hallmark Channel, they call it Loveuary, is all Jane Austen movies, but they're like Hallmark. They're gonna Hallmark Jane Austen movies. I
Oh,
don't know how I feel about it
interesting.
yet,
Okay.
but I'm excited. Like Pride and Prejudice, I lost count how many times
The times
I
are-
watched Pride and
And
Prejudice.
how many versions you've watched over the years? Because there's Sense and Sensibility. Yeah.
All the things. So I will say, Love on the Right Course from January. I loved Betty's Bad Luck in Love, and like there's a Scottish New Year new movie. Not my favorite. But this weekend there's like an aerial yoga one.
Oh, I
and
saw
I'm
that.
so excited.
What was that one? Love and Twisted, or I literally saw
I know,
that.
I'm sorry guys, I can't remember the titles. But I have a friend's daughter who's like, I watched her like grow and be really good at aerial. It's not aerial yoga, it's like performance aerial dance. Anyhow, we're gonna get to it. I know you guys can't wait. You're like, stop talking. Get to season 2, episode 1. Today's episode is called The Space Between.
If you're new to our podcast and you are watching The Way Home for the first time and you don't want any spoiler alerts, if you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch it, because this is the part of the episode where Nini's going to attempt to read the summary off the Hallmark Channel of The Way Home, season 2, episode 1, but an audio spa calm version of this episode, where Dell recreates traditions of family summers past, Alice misses her friends, and Kat grapples with Jacob's mystery in the wake of losing Elliott. This is The Space Between. In an unknown time, a little boy is seen from behind, running through the woods. The boy stops at the water's edge ahead of the pond. An elderly woman stands beside him. She tells him the pond will always take him where he needs to go. In the present day, Kat, alongside Alice, tells Dell that she knows what happened to Jacob. Dell tells Kat to let it go. Kat runs out to the pond with Alice chasing behind her. She dives in, but the pond rejects her. Alice pleads with her to stop trying, and when Alice dives in after her mom, she gets trapped under the part of the pond that's frozen over with ice. Kat comes back up, swirling around the icy water in search of Alice. She finds her and brings a limp Alice to shore while screaming for help. After performing mouth to mouth, wait, what? She doesn't do this, by the way. Kat resuscitates her. The next morning, Kat arrives at Elliott's front porch only to find a goodbye note addressed to her on the door. Kat and a recovering Alice sit at the edge of the pond with ideas about what happened to Jacob. Alice suggests they go after him, find him after the pond melts, and Kat refuses, declaring they must be done with the pond. Some time passes. Kat goes for a summer run, and as she passes Elliott's house, she takes a moment to stare. Meanwhile, Dell tends to her fields. When an unknown horse appears and stands behind her, they lock eyes before the horse bolts. Back home, Spencer arrives to give Alice a ride to school for the last day of school. In Jacob's bedroom, Kat sits with documents and notes. Alice enters and Kat shares she hasn't made much progress with her research on Jacob. Alice thinks it's easier to solve the mystery through traveling in the pond, but Kat reminds her that Elliott disagreed. After Alice leaves, Kat receives a letter. Kat and Monica are downtown Port Haven. Kat shares that Alice is going away to be with Brady for the summer. Kat is now editor-in-chief at the Herald, and she receives a call about a death in town. At the Landrys, Kat and Dell and Rita are discussing the bad news. Evelyn Goodwin, the oldest member of the town's wealthiest family, has died. Alice walks in and delivers mail from Elliott, who has been sending postcards from around the world. Alice rolls her eyes as Kat is visibly hurt. Over dinner, Alice learns Evelyn's family founded Port Haven, and Lingermore was the name of their palace. Kat reminds Dell that their lineage, Rebecca and Elijah Landry, were founders too. They rise from the table and dance to Steal My Sunshine. In Jacob's bedroom, Kat sits with documents and notes. Alice enters and Kat shares she hasn't made much progress with her research on Jacob. Alice thinks it's easier to solve the mystery through the pond, but Kat reminds her that Elliott disagreed. After Alice leaves, Kat receives a call from Brady, and Kat shares that Alice is the glue in her bond with Dell. They hang up and Kat receives another call. At the Point Cafe, Kat informs Monica that Evelyn put the Herald in her will. Additionally, there are historical artifacts that she left behind, and she will have to go to the Lingermore estate to get them. Just as they discuss the trip, Dell enters and shares that she is going too. They arrive and are greeted by the lawyer who is overseeing the dissolution of Miss Goodwin's estate. The lawyer informs Kat that Evelyn died before she could open up a museum of her family's artifacts, and now that she's gone, it's all Kat's. She willed it to the Herald. Kat goes through the boxes, she stares out the window, and is overtaken by old memories. Before leaving, Alice goes to the pond to say goodbye to the pond. She leans over and lets her fingers touch the water. She discovers the bracelet in there. It's the one she threw in when she first arrived at Port Haven. Back at Lingermore, Dell steps into another room of the palace and calls out to Evelyn in a familiar way. In another room, Kat observes a painting of the 19th century woman that resembles her. The photo inscription reads, "My Catherine, 1814. Kat is stunned and takes a picture of it. Back at home, Alice is packing to leave. Kat and Alice are both brimming with secrets to share. The next morning, Kat jogs by Elliott's and finds him at home. Kat invites Elliott to Dell's goodbye party for Alice, and although Alice is surprised that Kat invited Elliott, Dell is happy she did. At the party, Kat notices that Alice is wearing her lost bracelet. Alice lets out a nervous laugh before Elliott walks up with champagne in hand. Alice's face falls, and Kat walks into the house, and Elliott follows her in. Kat tells Elliott Alice felt abandoned by him. Alice is in the living room when Dell approaches, and she informs Alice of Elijah and Rebecca Landry's initials on the fireplace in their home. Alice confesses she doesn't want to leave Port Haven for the summer, and Dell tells Alice that the farm will always be there waiting for her. That night, Dell and the guests are seated around the fireplace. Dell holds a box of fireworks that are in honor of Colton. As fireworks goes off, Dell hopes the group feels Colton there with them. Dell slips into a memory of the past. The fireworks transition back to 1999. Colton and Teen Elliott are in conversation. Colton tells Elliott, in regards to Kat, to never waste time because it's never guaranteed. In 2024, Alice observes a look between Elliott and Kat. When Alice wants to know if they are together, Kat tells her that they were, and it didn't last. Alice believes it's her fault. At the Cove, Alice meets her friends at a bonfire. She thinks of Elliott and has a vision of Teen Elliott around the fire. Alice blinks, and then he's gone. In the clubhouse, Kat plays a mixtape that Elliott once made, and when Elliott arrives, Kat tells him she has given up time traveling. Elliott apologizes for not saying goodbye before leaving, but Kat tells him just to listen to the music. Although, they share a kiss, albeit an aggressive, passionate kiss, and Kat pulls away. It's 1999 at the Cove, and Teen Nick encourages Teen Elliott to go talk to Teen Kat, as he got Colton's approval. Teen Kat leaves the bonfire, and Elliott says he will tell her later. Back in 2024, Spencer gives his jacket to a cold Alice, and it reminds her of her time with Teen Nick. The group encourages her to sing a goodbye song with her guitar, and she takes off instead. At home, Dell and Kat talk about Lingermore. Dell admits that she wants to work on her relationship with Kat. In Alice's bedroom, Kat walks in And Alice shares that she misses the past. She confesses she went to the pond where she found the bracelet. She tells her mom that she threw it in when she first arrived, and the pond recently gave it back. Kat shares her secret too, showing Alice the portrait she saw at Lingermore. Kat says she must time travel to find out why she's in a portrait from 200 years ago. Alice believes it's connected to Jacob and pleads for one last trip together. From his home, Elliott observes Alice and Kat heading to the pond. He erases the romantic text he was drafting to Kat. Outside, Dell is cleaning up the fireworks when a farmer, Hank, drives up. He tells her he sold the farm, and the buyer doesn't want to take over the lease on her fields. Dell says she will take care of the farm by herself, and as Hank drives off, the black horse appears again. Kat and Alice jump into the pond, and Kat is violently yanked into the portal by a seaweed that wrapped around her leg. Alice screams and pushes herself up, resurfacing in a panic. She screams for Kat and doesn't know if she's transported or not until teen Elliott appears at the pond's edge. Kat resurfaces, but she is alone without Alice. She scrambles onto the rocks and a gun appears out of nowhere and shoots her. She falls into the pond and floats face down. The end.
Now's a part of our episode where we give this episode of The Way Home a rating out of 10 bobas. Okay. It was a lot. And I mean, how can we give it anything less than maybe like a 9?
There's just no, I feel like for me, this was another 100 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to do this to me every week, but you know how it is with sequels.
Yes.
You have high expectations and you don't know if it's going to let you down.
Mm-hmm.
Or you also don't know, like, especially with series, right? With episodic series, like, if they're going to introduce new characters or there's not enough of the old cast or the existing characters that you're like
it feels so
it
different.
doesn't have the same feel. Oh my goodness.
It felt
100 out of 10 for all the things.
It's 10 out of 10 for me. It was a seamless transition from season 1 to season 2. And I have to say really fast, because I know we want to get into the meat of it, so I don't want to take up a lot of time. But I even felt like they upped their cinematography. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but there was way more like immersive shots of like Alice pulling clothes off the hand. Like, it felt a little different. It felt a little warmer. And I noticed that right off the bat that it wasn't a jarring change. It just felt different and more immersive.
With good
and
feels.
And the color, it was, we talked about this, season 1 was there was a warmth in the 90s, but it was almost like it's not sepia tone, but there was almost like this golden overlay. And then in reality, it was very gray. Well, here we have a very vibrant, it's not gold, it's not gray, but it's very vibrant and happy. And I just have to say, Nini, you have to come to the cottage, okay? Because I literally am like this. There is only feelings that I get when I go to the cottage, and they're very hard to manufacture. I don't ever get them anywhere else. And this was like one of the first times where I'm watching this movie and I feel the same feeling. And I'm like, okay, yes. And it feels like Port Haven. Anyways, I just had to throw that out there. Loved it. It was a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay, we got to set intentions and make it a goal.
Yeah.
We will record a podcast episode from the cottage
beside
this year,
the lake. Oh my gosh.
You can't. I know. You're going to, when Dell called, like, when she said summer is magical, I was like, oh, probably people who go to the cottage, that's what it feels like.
Yes, and even the town, like, everything it has this similar feeling. I actually was surprised that when I was watching it that I was getting this feel. Anyways, okay. 10 out of 10. I loved it. I cannot wait for next week.
We just got to dive into it. So if you're new here, we have 4 segments in which we break script with Hallmark movies and The Way Home. They're different for The Way Home because it's just so unique. We love it. We're obsessed. Home Sweet Home is where we dive into the glimmers and what we love, and we break down romantic and family relationships. And this is usually the segment where we also introduce new characters if we need to. I mean, what? Okay, but I feel like I have to say something before we get to new characters, because
Okay.
that's more of like a surprising detour, I would say,
Okay.
right? Let's save the new
Yeah.
characters for surprising detours today.
Sure.
Okay. For me, it's going to be a constant. I think you guys I might be like a broken record, but I feel like for most episodes of The Way Home, my biggest glimmer is going to be the opening, the closing, and the music. Like,
Yeah.
super consistently, how much and how well they fit so many story details in such short periods of time. And the beginning and the end are brilliant. Like, you guys, do you realize the cold open is not even 4 minutes, okay? We find out that Jacob knows about the pond and time travel. Within the first 4 minutes, immediately, Kat is running to go jump in the pond. Alice almost dies, and we're not even 4 minutes.
I know. That I was like, literally yelling.
I think I texted Lala and my daughter, whom we call Nana. Lala, Nini, and Nana. I love it. Can't make this stuff up. These are real names that we call each other.
Yeah.
Welcome to our family. Nana was like, oh my goodness, Mama, my heart skipped a beat. It's still thumping.
So
That's what she
true.
said. Not pounding. It was thumping.
Thumping. I love that.
The end, what they did to us, where we're thinking so many episodes ended where they're about to jump in the pond, but they don't jump and you don't see what's happening next. I was like, you guys, it's going to end. They're going to stand on that rock. We're not going to see what's happening next, but it's a cliffhanger.
I know.
Like, even more so. So within like a couple minutes, you think Alice didn't time travel. She jumped, but she didn't time travel. It only took her mom. And then, I know this is surprising detours, but this is a glimmer. Like, just how brilliantly they do. Like, then you see that she did, and she's seeing 90s Elliott. So then you're like, oh my gosh, Kat didn't time travel. And then she gets out of the pond and she gets
shot. I know. Honestly, brilliant. Because I just have to, since we're there, I just have to say it. From season 1, we know that Alice's last time in the 90s was at Colton's funeral. So either she is before, sometime in before the funeral, but it doesn't feel like that, or they're breaking the time continuum, whatever, and she has traveled there again.
She's doing it again.
Yes.
So,
it was so good.
We just need you to understand right off the bat, if we're talking really fast, it sounds like our nervous systems are activated. It's what we could not move. We were between freeze, fight, and flight the whole time. So maybe we were exercising our nervous system, even though it wasn't calm, you know?
Maybe that's why I'm so tired today.
It probably is. It's good. We're stretching our vagus nerves. Okay. Go for it. Glimmer.
Okay. You know what I also loved? Okay, so I'm just going to say I loved Port Haven. The cinematography is beautiful. I love the music. Finn is a time traveling dog. If you have a dog, I think that just like tickles your funny bone because you could just like think about your dog time traveling is kind of hilarious. But something that I loved, and this is a little bit of a surprising detour as well, but I have to throw it in here because I just love this detail because it makes so much sense, is that Jacob was there when the almanac was created.
Wait. I think that's like overlaps with the way we see it. What are we talking about? Wait, what?
Yes.
This is why we're doing this. What are you talking about?
So Kat says, no, someone says Jacob was there when the almanac was created. Kat's telling Alice. That's why that quote is written in there.
Oh my goodness. I even like rewatched, and how did I miss that line?
When the almanac was created, he wrote the star, that quote.
The travelers use
Which
the stars when they're
such
lost.
a mind trip because as a kid, he would read that and he would say that, but he was the one that wrote it in the past, but he's in the future.
But how do they know that? How did they get there? Like that was my question, because I was like, how did they get to, why are they going through all these names from the book for the Historical Society?
Oh, because I think they're thinking that maybe he was, his name isn't Jacob in the past. And if they
That's why they're
can
looking at Benjamin Landry, which
Yes.
that's some new characters. They bring up the
Yes.
name Benjamin Landry. They also bring up Elijah and Rebecca, who were the first Landrys
Yes.
to found the farm.
Okay, I'm gonna move from this one because I feel like
We have to go into that for the way we
so I'm
see
just
it.
gonna
Okay.
rapid fire some of the stuff that I love.
Okay,
Okay,
go.
I don't know if this is a love, but I think this is good. Brady and Rachel are still together. You know, this relationship I didn't think
Interesting.
would last, but I think
True.
that for Alice's sake, for stability, you know, Brady really ruined his marriage for this woman, so I'm glad they're together. The relationship between the Landry woman, we haven't seen it so
Yes.
light, loving, and fun. That scene at the
Yes.
beginning where they're dancing and singing in the kitchen. Loved that.
Yes.
It was something new we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
I love that a new storyline emerges with the Goodwin estate and that
Ugh.
family, which we'll get more
Yes.
into.
Yes.
I love that Alice talks to the pond, that she misses it, and you just see this connection with the pond
Yeah.
in as like an entity, which is you know, interesting. And
Totally.
then we get more Landry family backstory, more
Totally.
flashbacks. And then
Yes.
the last one is we get a little more of Elliott's backstory, that Colton really built the clubhouse for him and they really wanted him to be the one to use it and put his telescope up there. And it just
So
shows
crazy.
how loving the Landry family was and looking out for Elliott and how
Yes.
Elliott really was a part of the family. So those were the things that I loved.
Ugh, amazing. Okay, I just have 4. I'll go through them. I'll rapid fire 2. I just have to slow down for a second though, and like I want you guys to feel it with me because when you were
Mhm.
talking about the feels that the cottage gives you, I had those feels in Delle's first scene when she takes off
Mm,
her like bee helmet, and I was like,
yeah.
my family, I love you all. I've missed you. I know I've been reviewing season
Aw.
1, but like I had those feels
Yes.
like, wow, I have fallen in love with these
The-
characters. This is brilliant writing.
Like you feel
Not
like you're
only
a part of the family.
100%, and not
Yeah.
only that, but you're right. Everything is softer. There, whoever is doing wardrobe, bless you,
So
because
good.
all the
So
vibes
good.
with it is so like it is. It's represent the coloring, the
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic, the cinematography. It goes along with their healing. And I am such a full circle girl. Like, probably the reason why I love so much this is so not rapid fire, you guys. Probably the reason I love so much how you fit so much into like short periods of time is because in each scene is like Taiwanese dramas. Can we talk about that? Because we haven't gotten to Asian dramas yet.
Yeah.
And it'll probably take us like 9 months of this 10 months of this podcast before we get to it. So be patient. We still are planning it. I've got some great ideas. Um, but what you'll notice, there's a pattern. Asian drama lovers out there. Like, talk to me. When you're watching Taiwanese dramas as compared to Korean dramas, Taiwanese dramas have a lot more episodes. And they're like developing characters and
Mm.
plot lines, and they're really taking their time doing it. Like, there's so many filler episodes, it's not even funny. And then you get to the last episode and you're like, how are you gonna wrap this up? And then it
Yeah.
like it goes so fast and you're like, oh my gosh, your like head is spinning in the last episode. Like, this makes no sense. It's so fast. You ran out of time and you're trying to fit it all in the last episode. I feel that because like I want to be inspired. I'm Taiwanese. I feel like I have the gift of gab and I want to use my words better and I want to write better. Whoever writers, I know Marley Reed is one of them. Like, the song going through my head last night after we watched it was, "Do you even know that you're
Yeah.
a hero?" Like how when
Oh, that's
Lorelai was
hilarious.
singing to her daughter,
Yeah.
like, okay, all the feels. And not only do we have a time traveling dog, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure this kind of is in the way we see it, but I'm pretty sure we have a time traveling horse.
Oh, yes. The
Love horses.
horse.
Can't wait to get into talking about horse therapy. It is been deeply healing for me. Love horses. And I'm going to talk about my experience with Jasper one of these episodes because I feel like that horse is going to play a role. Um, let's talk about the relationships. I love, like, this is why it was 100 out of 10. In this episode, you bless the writers for not leaving us hanging. And the real open, right after the title is Elle leaves a note on the door for Kat. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
leave us hanging. We're not wondering what happened with Kat and Elle. Thank you,
Mhm.
writers. You let us know immediately. And not
Mhm.
only that, but you wrote in almost the entire cast on the first episode after
Mhm.
the strike last year. Like, way to go, employing everyone right from episode 1.
Even
But
Rita was there.
yes, Nick, Rita, Brady, like I didn't need to see Brady, but more power to him. Bless him and Rachel. Um, but what I so much love is that you saw everyone, you had all the feels,
Mhm.
but you also had the fact that 7 months pass. And you're right, the coloring, the feels, the vibes, like you could tell without them saying anything, just how ironic that she's running through the woods. We're going to talk about that later. But that she's using running. She's found a healthy coping mechanism.
Yeah.
In those 7 months, they've clearly had time to grieve. They moved on. They're in a different place, like than where they were initially. We're not in the throes of those intense
No.
emotions in that first
Yeah.
episode of what happened 7 months
Mhm.
ago. And she's doing well. She's running the Herald. She's besties with Monica, like the teenager that was Mean Girl. Like, Alice clearly is in a different place. Like, everyone has moved to a different place. Like, I just love, we're going to talk about it more because I really feel like so much of this content is going to be surprising detours. We'll get more into
Mhm.
relationships. I love it so much. Let's move on. Surprising
'Kay.
detours is our second segment where we talk about surprises, because there are so many of them. Like, you can't blink in this show. And we also talk about unhealthy behaviors or coping mechanisms.
Mhm.
All right, kick us off, Lala, because
Okay.
there's so many.
Which one should I start with first? Can I just throw out the 2 biggest ones for me? And
Go for it. It's probably the same.
okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Why is there a picture of Kat from 1814, a
Whew.
painting, a portrait called My Catherine? And who
Mhm.
is in the bushes?
Oh my gosh.
Who
Okay.
is that in the bushes?
Okay.
I actually screamed. It actually kind of creeped me out
Yeah.
first, if I'm being honest, because
Yeah,
I
Nana
just like,
screamed super loud. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I take that back. My son screamed first. And he screamed, Elliott! And I literally like texted Lala right away. So he screamed Elliott. Nana was screaming. Something was going on with the Chiefs because I was like, I just looked away for a minute. I was like, wait, what? How did you know it was Elliott? Like, we were all screaming. Who is that?
Okay, the only thing is the hair and the plaid jacket to me is a
It's not
Colton
Elliott.
giveaway.
Yeah.
It's not Elliott.
It's either
But
Colton or Jacob.
that threw me off too, because I'm like, well, I guess it could be Jacob, and maybe he like is wearing his dad's coat, or maybe in the
Yeah.
1800s they have a plaid coat. I don't know.
Who knows?
We've never lived there. Who
We
knows?
don't
Or
even
maybe
know.
he's time traveling from a different time. Who knows? Anyways, but brilliant,
Yes.
because one, I just really hope it's Colton. I don't want Colton to be gone.
I know. Well,
That's
and we
my
know
biggest
he's
thing.
not because we're, oh
What?
my gosh. So
we know
need
he's not?
okay,
How do we know he's not? Tell me.
apparently we need to get into the way we see it sooner rather than later. So let's,
Okay.
My 2
Keep
biggest
going.
ones was the head in the bushes. But, and you guys, the head in the bushes, it was bothering me so much. I had to go back and watch to see if like what Elliott was wearing showed up on the guy with the head in the bushes. I had to be sure he's not wearing the same thing.
No.
Because in like current day, he's wearing white, and he could have changed. I guess Cat changes. But anyways, the biggest one here is the Lingermore estate introduces an entire new storyline and characters. That's where Kat sees the picture of her current self in 1814 that says my Catherine. Like, wow.
Yeah.
The way home. Wow. Okay. It was such a surprise, but they wrote it in so seamlessly well. Like, it fits, right? Like, it fits
didn't
so
feel
well.
like it didn't feel like typically what happens where they need to continue the story, so they're writing something and it feels like they just put that in for the sake of continuing the series.
Right.
It felt natural, like a natural arm of the story.
It's so much like, okay, oh my goodness, I keep wanting to just like go into the way we see it. So we're going to get into Linger More Estates more in the way we see it for Nini. Do you have anything more you want to say about that, Lala?
Just a little bit. Okay, so we are reunited with Alice's Tiffany bracelet, which was an interesting thing because Alice found it just floating in the water, which we know a metal bracelet doesn't just float in water.
Yeah.
It's not floating, but they jump
It's
in the
like
pond,
there's a
it's
pond
deep.
person that's like giving
Exactly.
it back. It's a message.
Exactly. Alice is having flashes of mean teen Elliott. That was a little disturbing. She's at the bonfire and
He looks villainous.
he does look villainous. And you don't realize, they don't highlight it as much in season 1 about how much Alice telling Elliott his future really messed him up. I mean, you see that towards the end, but that's really what they're highlighting is that he's lived his life so much dictated by the past, and Alice is realizing it's because of her. Okay, a couple of things like unhealthy patterns of behavior. Isn't Elliott sending cards to Dell a very passive-aggressive approach?
I thought about that a little bit, but then I had to remember, like, he had a relationship with Dell before Kat came back.
I did too, but doesn't he know? Yeah, and you know what? And it's probably like his second mom.
I think so, because we still don't know
What happened?
his
You're
full
right.
history. Like, why was Colton clearly there? Like, we know his father was gone a lot, or like it seemed like maybe there could have been something unhealthy in Ellie's relationship with his father, where it seemed like Colton was wanting to create a safe space for Elliott, right?
Elliott.
And so I have this written down in my surprising detours. There was 1:37 left in the Chiefs game when the conversation with Colton is happening, where he's like giving Elliott not only his blessing to go for Kat, but like encouraging him, like my daughter yells out, "Carpe diem, go for Kat." Like,
It's funny
he's
because
encouraging him to go for Kat.
I actually, that flew over my head. I did
What?
not take it like that for some
Really?
reason. Yeah, and then I was confused when Nick said, "Oh, you got Colton's blessing, like, go." I don't know why. I just didn't I think I saw it more as a father talking to, like, a son. I don't know.
He
But I
was telling him
understand.
to go for Kat. I was like, I don't know what to do with this
Okay, maybe I would, like,
information.
blacked out or something.
Yeah, that's funny. Well,
I
it's
need to,
just
like,
so
rewatch
much
it.
in one episode. It's hard for the
It's
brain and the
true.
body to process. But the fact that Colton put electricity up there
Yes,
for
for Elliott.
Elliott, and Elliott, they're discussing, like, we find out that his dad was upset that he spent all of his savings on this telescope, and that's how that telescope gets there.
Yeah.
Is like, and he's staying there even when Kat is at camp. Like, so clearly Elle has a relationship. Even then, he has a relationship with Dell and Colton when Kat's not there. Like, I was like, wow, okay. Can we also talk about how hilarious and awkward Kat and Elle's first reunion is after 7 months? Like,
Okay, but I love this line that Rita said. I just had to say it when she sees Elliott and she's like, "Oh, he's having a hot boy summer." And I laughed really hard because it's so culturally relevant, but it's so funny that it's usually hot girl summer. And
yeah. And
anyways,
it's
I
out of
loved it.
Rita's mouth. And I'm like, that
Yeah.
is so not appropriate. And I was like, and they're talking about his glow up and
Yeah, glow up.
and even Kat's mentioning it. And I was like, I was also watching the game, guys. I was like, I don't get it. And even my son was like, he's got a tan. I was like,
Yeah.
oh. I
That's
was like,
it.
that's the glow up?
He looks,
okay.
but it just really shows you how much a tan can. When I have a tan, I feel like a new woman. I'm not even lying to you. I'm not even lying to you. If I want a way to, like, boost my self-confidence, I just throw in a little sunless tanning lotion and I feel really different.
This is where we need to talk about the fact that that is not understood in Asian culture, because we don't have tanners, we have whiteners and
Right.
brighteners. That's why we wear long sleeves and pants in the summer sometimes, because it's a thing. Like, if you watch Asian dramas, it's like the lighter the skin, it's a thing. Like, my mom would say only street girls tan. She would
Oh
say that
my
about a
gosh.
lot of things she didn't want me to do. Only street girls pierce their ears. Only street girls do their nails. I was like, well, I want to be. When she said street girls, that was when like Street Fighter was really popular, and I was like,
So
well, I
that's
want to
what
be
you thought.
Chun-Li. Like, I actually did dress up as Chun-Li senior year.
That's so
Anyhow,
funny.
um, can we just one thing about, because we're talking about unhealthy coping mechanisms or unhealthy relationships, behaviors
Mhm.
here. And this is not necessarily that, but let's just talk about the dynamic of I get you, Alice. Like, I get her in this episode. I feel her pain. Another male figure bailed on you,
Mhm.
like, and deserted you. Like, you've been through so much
Yeah.
pain with the male
Yes.
gender, like, ouch.
I know.
How can you not get it, Elle? Like, this has
I
nothing
wrote
to
that
do
down
with your
too.
relationship with Kat.
He just like in general, people deserve more. And he didn't they have a history. Alice is also a
Yeah.
teenager. He should
Yeah.
have taken the time to say goodbye. And we talked about this, I think, in episode 9. There was this like parental figure that Elliott started to become to Alice.
100%.
And just to leave, how
Mhm.
devastating. No matter, even if she's 16, 17, or whatever, you're still don't understand.
Yeah. Which I'm not judging. Listen, you've been through so much trauma. I can't imagine, and we're gonna get to in the way we see it, because I feel like Elliott's been time traveling. Like, I can't imagine how confusing it must be to live in two timelines, reliving your past while you're seeing your past self living your past
Mhm.
and trying to and reliving the traumas again, and he's just trying to get away.
Yeah.
Like, he's in acute trauma. Like, I just need to put an end to it. Like, I get that also. No judgment there. But for Alice, man, I feel her, and I love that. I love how, I know usually this is what we talk about unhealthy, but I feel like we need to talk about healthy too. To talk about the unhealthy here. Where when um that difference where Kat is telling Elle, like, of course I haven't told Alice about us. Like, the difference between like Rachel just showing up with Brady and
Yeah.
Kat, even though Alice knows Elle, she kept their relationship like as they're developing before they had a DTR. And
Mhm.
obviously, when she thought finally they could,
Mhm.
she's like, of course, it didn't feel appropriate.
Right.
Anyway, I'm watching our time. I know we need to get through it. I love that in the Brady conversation with Kat in the beginning. It's so sad. Alice is leaving for the summer. Like, I can't
I
even imagine
know.
how that feels after what they've all just been through.
I know.
And Brady is clueless, which is just like mind blowing to me. Um, I love that Kat tells Brady, um, when he says, like, well, at least maybe you can bond with your mom with no distractions. I was like, oh my gosh, I so felt when Kat was like, excuse me, Alice is no distraction. She's the glue.
Oh,
Kids so are the glue. I can't even
yeah.
tell you. Like, they're not the distraction. They're the glue. I'm so feeling
Oh,
that. And the fact that he even said that, I'm pointing it out because the fact that he even
yeah.
said that is like, that's how tone deaf and
Yeah.
lost you are. So, anyways, okay. Dead ends is a segment where we talk about what we didn't like. Usually in Hallmark movies, it's plot holes and continuity issues. I was
There's only
thinking, did I
one
have one?
thing.
Yeah, go
I only
ahead.
have one thing, and it's not that I don't like this, it's just a question. But what's happening with Alice and Spencer?
Okay, that was my big one. Like, and I had to go back and look because at first, the first time I watched it, when Spencer picks up Alice for the last day of school, I thought it was just Alice, and then I realized there's other kids in the
There
car.
is, but he gets out and he opens the door for her, and
And he
she's
puts
gonna
the blanket on her, and where's his girlfriend? And I'm really confused.
and he gives her his coat.
Yes, yes, he gives her, and that's where she has a flashback of Nick and like gets up and says she has to leave when they're asking
Yeah,
her to play guitar, which I love that they were asking her to play
I
guitar.
know.
Okay, my thing with Spencer, this is like a plot hole, like, right, like, this is the only thing in the entire episode, or like the entire 2 seasons, where in the writing I'm like, wait, what? Um, Spencer says, hey, the sooner we start the school day, the sooner it'll be over. No, sir, kid, that's not how that works.
It's not how it works.
The school day ends at the same time every day. The sooner you get there, the longer it's gonna be. So just so you know. I hate that Elliott leaves without saying goodbye.
Mhm.
Would you guys like for me to read the letter to you? Because I paused it.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
And the contents of the letter that Elliott wrote to Kat that he left on his
Okay.
drawer. I love that she left it on there, by the way.
I know.
Okay. This is giving me like Gilmore Girl vibes. Did you know that
It
like whoever
does.
was following Gilmore Girls, do you know which letter I'm talking about? That people like made up like or like tried to track down what actually was said in that letter?
Which one?
The one that
Lo
Lorelai
Mhm.
wrote to Rory when Logan was trying to get Rory back. And so Logan went to Lorelai for help. And he shows up. He's sending her like Harry David baskets, like flowers in that like really shady
Mm.
apartment she's living in. And he brings
Yeah.
like donuts and the letter
Yes.
that's sealed from Lorelai, and he hasn't read it and he doesn't know what it says. And she like leaves him hanging. Anyways, this is giving me
Hmm.
Gilmore Girl vibes. Okay. Okay, so the first couple lines are not complete. I'm so curious to see who's going to go in and complete this so we have a complete letter, because the first line is like think, because it's like at an angle, so I have like horizontal line, diagonal line through the letter. So think, letter to you, the edge of uncertainty, only one thing I am sure, that I need to turn that page and start a new chapter. And if I've learned anything from these past few months, it's that the worst thing is to waste time. So I need to say goodbye. I know you said you didn't understand, but I still hope you try. Take care of Dell and Alice. I love you. I'm sorry, Elliott.
Hmm.
I don't like it. I didn't like the letter. I wanted more, guys. You are such
Mm.
brilliant writers. And I know she's not reading the letter and people don't know, but you're going to have a cult following. People are going to pause and read the
Oh, for
letter.
sure. For sure.
Anyways, and the kiss. Nana was like, why is the kiss so aggressive?
It was a very aggressive kiss. It was.
Okay, this is going to be longer, so we need to dive into the way we see it because we got a hard stop today. This is theories. I cannot wait for season 2 to really dive into the way we see it. My brain would not shut off. Go for it, Lala.
Okay, I think I was so just shocked that my brain was blank. Okay, because I have two things. I don't really have a lot of predictions because I'm just like, what is going to happen? So ultimately, we know Kat is
Yeah,
going to the 1800s. So that's
yeah,
not a mystery.
right,
I don't know what's going to happen with Alice in the 90s.
right.
Unless she's in a weird time continuum place where they're all meeting together, I don't know. But
Yeah.
so my theory is that we open with that scene of Jacob standing with a lady that I originally thought was Dell talking and telling him
Mhm.
basically he can't go back in the pond. So
Right.
that confirms he grew up in the 1800s.
Shoo.
Okay? So my prediction is he's been growing up in the 1800s, and I don't know if he's come back and forth.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying. Yep,
I
yep,
think
yep.
he's just stayed there. Okay. That's my one, that he's just stayed there. My second one is, and I know this is controversial because we said this the whole season 1, but I actually don't think Elliott's a bad guy.
It goes back. They're doing it on purpose.
I
They're
think that
they're
he's
throwing
going to
us a
come around and he's going to end up helping them. I
Well,
think
yeah, he
and
does.
that's my prediction.
In the previews, we already
And
saw.
that Colton
Did
is
you?
alive, but you've confirmed that. That's it. I know it's not very inspiring, but I was just in so much shock of what's unfolding that I can't even think about it because I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, which is
My br-
great.
my brain, my wild imagination. I'm sure yours will be triggered in one of the next ones because I feel like Lala has even more of a wild imagination than I do. It's more detailed. Um, I I feel like the way we see it might also be like where we clarify questions, because
Mm,
when you were saying
okay.
in the Landry Almanac that they feel like Jacob, the way you put it was that he's been there since the beginning, like when they started the almanac, or like do you
He
feel like
was
it's somewhere in the middle? Like,
no, Kat said, and we can go back. I can go back and
okay, we
clarify
got to
this,
take
but
it to the tape.
I'm
Yeah.
95% sure Kat said he was there at for the creation of the almanac or like when it was
She was telling
existed.
Alice this? Like, was it when they got the historical society letter?
I I don't remember the sequence of events because at that point they were trying to then cross off who of the family, and they were basically saying we just need once we have one left, maybe we'll know what happened to Jacob. Like,
Yeah, okay,
basically,
because
they're trying to narrow it down
yeah.
because they think he was there at the beginning, so his name would be at the beginning,
This is what
and that
happens
maybe
when you're
his name
watching a
wasn't Jacob.
yeah, right, yes, because that's why they were talking about Benjamin Landry. This is what happens.
Mhm.
Don't watch the Chiefs game while you're watching The Way Home. Let's not do that again, guys. It's good. Next playoff game is at, like, 2 PM. Okay, this is where I'm at, and I felt like Dell was somewhat nostalgically, um, walking through the Lingermore estate and saying, "Oh, Evelyn," like so if we probably heard it in the summary, but let's talk about again the fact that the Lingermore family and the Landry family co-founded Port Haven. That is a
Mhm.
really important point, right?
Yes.
So, Nini's theory is that the Lingermore family and the Landry family have both known about the pond, and they have been traveling for
Ooh.
generations.
Mm.
So the lady holding Jacob's hand is a Lingermore holding him
Ooh, I have the
captive for some reason
shivers.
because they're both, it's kind of like they started off as best friends, friend, family, because they co-founded, their neighboring
Farms.
land, possibly
Mhm.
farms. And so they're like the established pillars, right? They're really good friends, but then they start to become like rivals. And there is a different white witch in different generations that the lore has
Mm.
to do with the Lingermore family. And potentially
Whoa.
the white witch is almost like the guardian of the pond.
Whoa.
And
This
they
is
are
deep.
determining, because listen, when they're in the pond, you hear a male voice say, or a female voice say, like, "Don't you want to know who that is?" And a guy voice says, "I don't."
Wait, when was that?
When Alice and Kat jump in the pond.
Oh, man, I need to go back. I PVR'd. I have it set to record every episode, so I could go back. I need to go back and watch that.
And so they have been, and so Evelyn,
Wow.
those things that she willed to the Herald, which, like, what a brilliant story that somehow
Mhm.
Kat ends up inheriting those artifacts, which I feel like is this master plan in the time traveling community for Kat to inherit these artifacts. Is these are artifacts that
Oh.
Evelyn has been time traveling and collecting through her time travels, all this stuff for a museum. And so that is also how Kat has time
Wow.
traveled as current self, and that's how current day Kat is in a painting in 1814, which I hope we figure out next week. That I'm thinking that's where she was shot, but who knows?
Yeah. Oh my god,
Um,
and she has to recover
oh,
there until sh
there, yeah, and then I, so good.
so much, so much.
Okay, next,
'Kay.
we also heard voices when Kat was walking through Lingermore Estate,
Yes.
and she's opening the window before she saw that painting.
Mhm.
And you hear a female voice saying, "You shouldn't have come here." And a male voice says, "Get out." And a female shrieks or like screams.
Mhm.
What trauma happened for Kat at the Lingermore
The
estate?
I know.
Was it another teen love
Oh, yeah,
before Brady?
yes.
Poor Elliott.
Elliott. I was I if I agree, that was my assumption, and it felt very, like, teenage, not historical or time travel-y. It felt like maybe it was a high school
Yeah,
situation.
exactly. Like, oh, all the feels, because clearly the Landrys have a very, like, the
Yeah.
way that Pat said, "I'm going up the hill," and Dell immediately says, "I'm going with you." Like, there's
There's
something to
something
that.
there. You're right.
I just have to mention, Alice is starting to say it all felt like a dream. Do people's memories get wiped over time? Like, it's just kind of making me wonder, like, do your memories change from the time traveling? Because I
Mhm.
feel like you're going back and forth in time. Who is this new neighbor? The neighbor sold the farm and he's been helping Dell farm this
Yeah.
land. So, like, how's that going to change? Is a villain moving on to the neighboring farm?
That's what
Is
it
it going
feels
to be a
like.
multiverse version of Jacob
Mhm.
and Colton?
Mm. And
Like,
who is this horse?
I'm loving. I hope we get a name for the horse because I'm like super like attached to the horse
I
already.
know.
And I don't not only think that there is a white witch for every period, I feel like there's guardians of the
Mm.
pond. It's like, sorry, I keep likening it to Loki of the Marvel Universe, where it's
Right?
like
Yeah.
they're the episodes where it's like there's keepers of the timeline, and so there's like a
Yeah.
group, but there's like the timekeeper is like the head. So like the White Witch is the head of all the keepers of the pond. Anyhow, I don't know. I know that Elliott, in the previews for next week, Elliott is the one telling Alice and calming her down, saying that Kat's going to be fine. She always is. But before our final thoughts or favorite quotes that we always end with, I have to say, I want to go back to the end of season 1
Mm-hmm.
when Kat is having that flashback
Mm-hmm.
of Jacob chasing Finn into the pond.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I know what happened to Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't okay, if it was just a true flashback, she wouldn't have seen Jacob chase Finn into the pond. Was she having a clairvoyant moment, or she's
Or was she
having
there?
memories from past time travels?
I know.
Okay.
I think that the timelines are going to get messier in a great way. I think we're going to start to understand a lot more things in that way. So I'm very excited.
Ugh, I can't wait. Favorite thoughts, final quotes, or
Okay,
final
I
thoughts,
have
favorite
one
quotes.
quote that Dell said, and she said, "No more regrets, only resets." And I was like,
Oh,
"Amen,
that was my
sister."
favorite. I had that too. I love what she says, quit worrying about tomorrow when today isn't over.
I know, that was good.
I have like less talking, more dancing from Alice. And when she says, I can't stop thinking about the past, I miss it. Ugh, feels, all the feels. I like, that's not just a time travel thing. That's like, I feel that.
Yeah.
Kat, when she tells her mom, this probably goes in Home Sweet Home, but it's nice to hear you say Dad and Jacob's name, not
Yeah.
in a scared or sad way, but in a way that holds them close and loves them. That,
Mhm.
if that is not the definition of grief
I know.
recovery, come
So good.
on. Okay. Last thing, a link to share. Apparently, I'm not a big enough fan because I think in one of the previous episodes, I said, I really need that cover of Time After Time with that male voice. Lala, would you like to tell everyone? I was like so shocked. I texted Lala immediately. Would you like to tell everyone who's singing that cover of Time After
It's
Time?
Elliott. Elliott is an artist.
What?
What's his name? Bright World? Is that what his
That's the name
artist
of
name is?
the yeah, his group. The voice is
So good.
amazing. Listen to, I'll link it in the show notes. Oh my goodness. What an incredible rendition
What a great
of Cindy
discovery, to
Lauper
be
song.
honest.
Oh, and I love that song. That was on repeat in my teenage years. So episode 2, the title is Hanging by a Moment.
Love it.
The anticipation is so high. Anyways, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button on your podcast preferred platform, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.